get up!
Why are you here, you devil? You should be afraid of me. You killed my family. How dare you stand in front of me unafraid?
I know you want revenge, and I know you're disgusted by me just like everyone else, but you made me, why can't you act like it? If you only wanted to kill me, why make me in the first place? I'll only ask one thing of you, and if you give me this, I leave you alone. But if you don't, I will haunt you for the rest of your life, and your friends will pay the price with their lives. I wish it weren't this way, but if you treat me as your enemy, it must be.
How fucking dare you?
Calm down and listen to me before you make up your mind. My life hasn't been easy, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna give up on it. I'm your monster, and I'm strong, but I don't want to hurt you. Please don't be like everyone else. Just listen. Remember, you made me. Everybody around me is happy, and I want to be too, but I can't. Please, end my sadness and make me happy.
After much arguing, I got him to listen to me. It's hard for me to remember my beginning. Everything's confusing and it blurs together. Imagine experiencing everything all at once. It was confusing as I saw, felt, heard, and smelt at the same time, a complete overload. It was a while before I could tell them apart. It was bright, so I closed my eyes, and then it was dark and light and back and forth, and I didn't understand. I walked, and I think I descended, but then I felt a change. Before, I was surrounded and could feel the walls around me. Now I found I could wander freely without anything blocking my path. The light became too bright, and I felt heat for the first time, so I tried to find shade. A nearby forest provided a nice shade, and I wandered around it until the sun went down. I discovered what cold and exhaustion felt like. I hadn't eaten all day and was too tired to walk any longer, so I collected some leaves, covered myself with them, curled into a ball, and spent the night sleeping at the base of a large tree. When I woke in the morning to the sound of birds chirping, I saw the birds surrounding a bush. I brushed the leaves off and approached the bush slowly to see what they were doing. When I saw they were eating small red berries, I stormed to the bush and shoved as many berries as would fit in my mouth at a time. For a few days, I stayed in the area and lived off of the berries and the water from a nearby stream. Nights were cold and the days were bright and beautiful. I enjoyed the breeze, the sun, and the smell of nature around me, and slowly I learned to savor the beauty of life. But the berries didn't keep me full for long, and I could tell I needed more than simple berries. One night, as I was walking around to keep warm for a little longer, I came across a fire left behind by some homeless people. I was so excited by its warmth that I thrusted my hands into the embers, but I quickly discovered the pain that came from that. I cradled my wound for a moment and then watched the fire to see how it worked. To my delight, it was made of wood, so I went out and collected some small logs and twigs. I kept it going for as long as possible because I didn't want to experience the cold I felt before I discovered my fire ever again. Before I went to sleep, I loaded the fire with many logs and slept nervously throughout the night. When the fire was still there in the morning, I celebrated. Eventually, I knew I had to abandon my fire for more sustaining food, so one morning I set out to find some. I wandered into a very small and poor village. There was what seemed to be plentiful food in the gardens, and my heart soared. As I wandered around the village, there were 2 people tending to their gardens, and upon seeing me, they shrieked and ran towards the nearby forest as quickly as they could. The men in the village came with guns and shot at me, with one bullet skimming my side. I ran from the village, terrified and ashamed. I hadn't done anything to them, but they still viciously attacked me. As I wandered again, I came across a small hut, yet I didn't go in, afraid of another attack. I slept in a nearby shelter formed by branches and bushes, eating something from the garden that was finally curing my starvation. In the morning, I watched as a young girl exited the house, performing menial chores around the house. She was soon joined by a man who I would later learn was her brother. After completing their work, they went into the hut, where I peeked through the window and watched them visit an old man who appeared to be blind. Day after day, I watched these creatures, curious to understand them and the noises that came out of their mouths. I learned that Agnes was the name of the girl, and she was very kind and thoughtful. Her older brother, Felix, was also kind at heart, but he always seemed preoccupied. He performed all of his work with a worried look on his face, and was more removed from his family than when they spent time together in the house. The old man is their father, and he is blind. He relies on his children and is very grateful for their presence. Though they were always loving and respectful towards each other, I always sensed a sadness among them, and as the months passed, I figured out that this sadness was because of the poverty they lived in and a constant worry about lacking food. Once I understood this was an issue for them, I stopped stealing food from their garden and instead sustained myself on roots and berries I found in the forest. Over the weeks and months that passed, I grew to love these creatures and learned a great deal from them. I realized that Felix would collect firewood every day, so I began collecting it for him and setting it on their front porch every night. In the morning, he was shocked to see one of his chores already finished, but once he got over his initial confusion, he dropped to his knees and praised the Lord. I found a happiness in my ability to continue helping them. I felt like part of the family and yearned to be a really part of their lives, but knew I couldn't. One day, while collecting kindling for their fire and food for myself, I saw my reflection in a lake. I was disgusted by what I saw. I knew my appearance was why the villagers had attacked me in the past. Despite my love for the people in the hut, I knew I couldn't reveal myself to them because they would fear me, and I still had no ability to communicate with them. But a few months after I began covertly helping with the chores, I came across a stroke of luck. Felix, Agnes, and the old man began tutoring neighboring kids in English to make some extra money. Though Felix and his family were Syrian refugees and spoke Arabic around the house, they knew how to speak English and read in English from the subtitles of American shows on their small TV. I sat on these tutoring sessions as a secret student and practiced conversations by myself while I collected food. And while the rest of their world slept, I read from a pile of tattered British newspapers that I found next to a burnout fire, presumably being used as kindling. I gradually perfected the art of English, and I knew what I wanted my next steps to be, but I was too nervous. All I wanted, more than anything in the world, was to talk to the family, what I now thought of as my family, and I wanted them to see who I really was. I cursed my ugly exterior every day and now avoided the pond where I saw my reflection because I knew that if I got a glimpse of myself, all of the confidence I had been building up through my good deeds and studies would be obliterated. I only had one shot, I knew that. I had to make them see that I was human, like them, that I could feel and think as they did, so I created a master plan. I decided I would speak to the blind old man while his children were out of the house and appeal to his human nature. I would befriend him, and he would explain to his family that I wasn't what I appeared. He would explain to them what they wouldn't be able to believe from me. I put this desire off for months, always telling myself I wasn't ready. In reality, I didn't want to burst this bubble of happiness I'd created for myself. In my head, I lived in their world, and I wasn't ready to be denounced from a family I was never really a part of. But one day, while Agnes and Felix were out performing chores, I knew that it was the perfect time, and I couldn't put it off any longer. As I approached their door, my stomach twisted into knots, and my heart was beating as if trying to escape from my chest.
Who is it?
My name is... George Wickham, and I'm just moved to the area and seem to be lost. I was wondering if you had a map or could give me some directions back to the center of town.
Yes, come right in. I have many maps. Take a rest. Can you go get the map? I think my daughter left it over there. Can I offer you any beverages or light refreshments?
No, that's really too kind of you, but thank you so much.
So, where are you from?
I'm from many places. I'm a nomad looking for a home. I don't really have any relatives or friends on this part of the earth, and I've always been very lonely, unwanted even. The nice people who I've traveled to this area to meet haven't seen me and know very little about me. I'm very scared because if they don't like me, then I'm homeless and have nowhere else to go. Sorry, this is probably more than you expected when you opened your door, but I had to talk to someone.
I'm so sorry to hear that, but I don't think you should be worried. I've known you for about 5 minutes, but I can feel your kindness, and the human heart can't turn away a being with such pure qualities. I have the utmost faith that the friends you are looking for will accept you with open arms.
You've no idea the relief it brings me to hear you say that. Let me get that for you. It's the least I can do.
Thanks, B.
Who the fuck are you? Why are you touching my father? Get the fuck out of my house!
Get out.
I wasn't trying to. I didn't mean to. calm down. Sorry, there's a bug.
Like,
You know how you're like if you just fall over, it's like that.
I can't.
You are the most unnatural human being.
No.
I know you want revenge, and I know you're disgusted by me.
Lucida understands nothing about modern film.
I'm gonna pull out a piece of popcorn from my head.
Always telling myself I wasn't ready. In reality, I didn't want to burst this bubble. Why are you laughing?